Hey friends, I want to talk about a concept that I'm realizing is pretty fundamental to the way I see both friendship and collaboration, and really all kinds of relationships, which is the concept of, for lack of a better term, dual relationships, or I would say relationship complexity. I first became aware of the concept of dual relationships through therapy. I don't remember when. It might have been in college, but certainly by the time I worked with my second major therapist, it was just sort of in the air. In fact, it was like weirdly in the background. I remember being confused about this, and I wish that my therapist had just talked about this directly. I wish that when I'd worked with therapists, both of the main two therapists that I've worked with for like an extended period of time, multiple years, I wish that I love them both, but I wish that they had said at the beginning, like, here's what my philosophy of therapy is. Here's what I can do. Here's what I can't do. Here, here's how I do this sort of thing. It was sort of opaque or indirect, and they had very different modalities and perspectives on this issue also. But anyway, it was just sort of in the air. I'd say they had very opposite views about this, actually, is my sense. But anyway, as far as I understand, I'm not a therapist or a psychologist, but as far as I understand, at some point therapists realized, hey, it's complicated if I have multiple relationships with my client, and it's hard to be also friends, or probably you shouldn't be romantic partners with the person, and etc. And there was this kind of collective agreement at some point. I don't know the historical details of this, but this is what it seems to me, not being an expert in any case, that the industry, such as it is, for lack of a better word, decided, okay, no dual relationships. You should just focus on the therapist-client relationship. You are not your client's friend, and you definitely should not be their partner. Romantically, probably you shouldn't have a business relationship with them. You're not their spiritual teacher. You are their therapist, and that's it. And focus on that alone. Keep it simple. And, that's a pretty reasonable policy. I see why they said that. And it's always rubbed me the wrong way. And why has it rubbed me the wrong way? Well, for starters, I realized as I wrote my post about friendship, I think it's the practice of friendship is the name of the post. I always forget which which noun I used for these, but the post about friendship, the art of friendship, maybe. I'll link to it in the notes, but I made this diagram that's like a big circle that says friendship, and then there's lots of specific kinds of relationships within that. And for me, something I've really come to value, which is not evenly distributed in human culture, but it's something that matters to me, is friendship first. Like, really, as I've talked about elsewhere, I try to see everyone as a friend and call everyone a friend. I use that practice from the Society of Friends, from the Quakers, and how to put it, I see everyone as a friend. That means that they're worthy of love and respect and care. Basic ethics. I try to show up in that way. I try to relate to someone as a friend, that I'm willing to love them, I'm willing to be kind to them, I'm willing to treat them respectfully. That's the baseline. That should be the baseline for everybody. And not just humans, but all beings. All friends, really. So from that perspective, it's weird to me to have any kind of relationship where that's not reciprocated. And there are contexts where that doesn't make sense. I mean, if I go into a convenience store or a grocery store or hire some contractor or something, it's like, well, the default norm is that I expect and anticipate is they will not see me as a friend. They will see me as a client or a customer or whatever it is. And that's fine. I am inured to that. I am accustomed to something that is dispreferable for me. And actually, sometimes it's really nice because I'll notice people, say at the grocery store, where it's like, there are people who are there who are just trying to do their job and just trying to earn their money and their livelihood, trying to help people. And they're good at it even. They're very good at it. They do their job well, no complaints. But then there are people whose like heart is open and who are really throwing themselves in and are relating to you as a person. This is the most important part. You can tell they're like, I'm a human, I'm a full being, and I see that you are too. And yes, we're just having this transaction right now, but I have not forgotten that we are both humans, and I will relate to you in this way. And I always feel so refreshed. I saw one of those people last night when I went grocery shopping. I typically go do a little bit of grocery shopping most days. So I'm in grocery stores a lot. Anyway, it's just so refreshing. It's so refreshing to be around someone like that. So my first therapist, who I've actually had on my podcast, and I really don't think he'd mind me saying this, Jerry, I don't know. I don't know how he would speak about it, but I experienced him as considering me a friend and relating to me as a friend. And then he just happened to be a counselor at St. John's College and someone I could talk to. And really, I would just go and he would share some things. He's a talkative guy. He would talk about how he saw things, and then I would talk about whatever's on my heart, and we'd kind of just go back and forth. And it was like we were hanging out once a week for 4 years. I think I saw him all 4 years I was at St. John's, and I still consider him a friend, and we still correspond, and I still love him very much. He was really a mentor to me. And it was just really clear. He's like, I think this has to do with his relationship to spirituality and his faith, where it was like, hey, I am a person. I don't know if he would use these words, but like, I'm a child of God, and you are a child of God as well. And I will not forget that. And I will relate to you as such. And it just so happens that I have this profession and this career where I am a counselor at this college, and I will help you in that way, in whatever way you need. But first and foremost, we are children of God. And that was so felt. It was so felt and so appreciated, and made me feel connected to him and made me feel close. And, it never really got confusing, because it was like, yeah, he's my friend and he's also my counselor, my therapist. And it was fine. It was just fine. There were no problems with that. That's how I wanted it. That's how he wanted it. I can't really speak for him, but that's how I experienced him wanting it. And it was fine. We just had a good relationship. And then when I stopped going to see him, it was fine. It was like, we're still friends. He's not my counselor or my therapist now. I talk to him maybe once or twice a year by email. I would love to see him. It's been too long, but, yeah, we're friends. And it's like, that's what we started with, and that's what we are first and foremost. And, that is a dual relationship. It's like, yes, he was also my counselor. He was also my therapist, but it's founded on friendship, right? My second therapist, total opposite of that. She was very friendly with me. She was very kind to me, incredibly kind to me. I love her so much, but it was just very clear, like implicitly, that she was adhering more to this professional code of conduct, where it's like, she was my therapist. And I learned very little about her during the time that I worked with her, probably like 3 years of seeing her once a week or something. I don't know, maybe it was 2 years. I don't remember, but she was an incredible therapist for me. I'm so grateful to her. And that was just so palpably felt, how little I learned about her. And then I'm really not very connected to her now. I sent her an email last year, maybe, and I think I sent her a letter a couple years ago. But it's like, and I know she wishes me well. Wants me to be happy, wants me to flourish. There's no hard feelings about that, but it's just such a different feeling, right? It's like, okay, we're just going to focus on this one relationship. And to me, that's less ideal. I would have really loved to have learned about her, or seen her heart, or still be connected to her. It's like, wow, we got very intimate, and then because I stopped going to therapy really for practical reasons, like, we're not really that connected anymore. And from a professional perspective, that makes perfect sense. It's like there's a service being rendered that ceases to make sense. But on a human heart level, it's like, wow, that's weird. That's jarring. That's disconnecting. I miss her. And I'm sure somewhere there are therapists and psychologists and psychoanalysts that have a whole perspective about why this makes sense, why it's a good default, why there's considered reasoning behind this. That's fine. I'm not going to try and disabuse anyone of that perspective. I'm just talking about what works for me. And the way I try to live is friendship first with everyone. Everyone, flat out. Everyone is my friend. I may not like everyone. To be clear, I don't like everyone. I dislike some people. I maybe wish that I liked everyone, but I don't. I dislike some people, but I will try to respect everyone. I will try to be loving and kind towards everyone, even if I dislike them. It's like, okay. And I can learn to like most people too, especially if I'm honest with them and share what's actually my experience. Like, hey, I don't like when you do this, or I don't like that you said that, or this bothers me or makes me uncomfortable, or whatever it is. A lot of people can meet you there, and some people can't, of course. But anyway, to be clear, I see everyone as a friend, but that doesn't mean I like everyone. And for me, it's important to have friendship be the basis of relationship. And that matters. And then, but I also have other kinds of relationships. And I've talked a lot about therapy so far, but I'm not currently seeing a therapist. I see coaches, I have mentors, there are people ask for advice. I sometimes will do like more self-therapy type stuff with a practitioner. Like Theo, for example, who I've had on my podcast. Now Theo, I've done IFS with him and core transformation with him and focusing and some other stuff. There are other people that I've worked with in modalities like that and other things. But I'm not actively seeing a therapist once a week, for example, which is fine. But my point is, we have lots and lots of different kinds of relationships, right? There's friendship, there's therapy, which I've talked extensively about. There's coaches, there's mentors, there's collaborators, there's romantic partners, there's spiritual teachers or spiritual advisors. There's commercial transactions, right? Where someone is selling you something or you're selling them something. I'm probably missing some, but those are kind of like a broad stretch of some of the kinds of human relationships that we can have with each other. And for me, it's incredibly important to have friendship first. I don't like relationships where friendship is occluded or prevented. And that's someone else's choice to close that off. And they may have very good reason for doing so, but it is dispreferable for me, is highly dispreferable for me, especially because I am actively giving that to everyone. I'm trying to see everyone as a friend. And this has caused some pain and some suffering. And I suspect the way that I see this will evolve over time as I understand better why people make the choices they make and have more theory of mind for them and so on. But in any case, here we are now. This is where I am now. But I mention it because that means if I view friendship first and I try to relate to people that way, regardless of whether they relate to me, that means every relationship I have, if I have a relationship with someone that is other than just friendship, if they're my collaborator, if they're my lover or partner, if they are a teacher to me, if I am a coach for them, if they're a coach for me, whatever it is, then that is intrinsically already a quote dual relationship. And sometimes there are multiple relationships. Sometimes, and I keep track of these, right? It's like, oh, I have this relationship with you. I have this relationship with you. I have this relationship with you. Another one that I often have, actually, now that I think about it, is like the guest host relationship, right? Because I stay with people all the time. And it's like, well, we're friends. I view you as a friend, but you're also my host and I am your guest. And that's a different relationship. It's additional, but it's a distinct relationship. And sometimes they're also my collaborator, for example. Like I've stayed with people that are in the service guild, for example. And that's 3 relationships right there. And sometimes there are more other ones. Maybe I've done coaching with them, for example, or they've coached me or whatever. And to know, it's so valuable to me to be really clear, both in myself and ideally explicitly with the other person, what relationships are present. And to be unambiguous about what those relationships are, and to be able to speak clearly about them and explicitly. And importantly, if it hits too much complexity, if you hit too much complexity relationally with someone or in a context, then you need to simplify. And this is really what I wanted to make the video about, is how you need to simplify if it becomes overly complex. This is the fundamental insight behind, hey, just focus on the client-therapist relationship, is that it obviously can become incredibly complex and painful and possibly damaging or traumatizing to have complexity in the therapist-client relationship. And it's like, well, it's just simpler to focus just on that. But that means a lot is left on the table, right? Like maybe there are other things that want to arise. Like, for example, collaboration. Maybe you'd want to collaborate with your therapist, right? write a book together or something. Who knows? And, it makes sense that that would be an industry standard of let's just keep it simple. Let's just focus on this one relationship. And it sort of rubs me the wrong way. It's dispreferable for me. And for me, I try to view friendship first in all of these contexts. But it's true, we do hit complexity. And the more relationships there are, the more likely it is that you will hit complexity. And so for me, I'm always seeking out kind of the highest and best relationship that's possible with someone, and really maximum complexity that's sustainable and feels good for both people and is ethical and aligned with their values and all of that. And I've kind of ridden that wave in a lot of different relationships of like, oh, that's too complex. It's like, okay, let's simplify. Or, I think there's actually more on the table that we're leaving behind. Like, what wants to happen here that's not currently being manifest or expressed. And just to be able to talk about that is so helpful, to be like, hey, I think we have these 2 or 3 or 4, or, I remember having a conversation with someone last year or 2 years ago where I was like, they were talking to me about a life problem they were facing, and we were kind of debugging it, and they were asking for advice. And I was like, well, if I'm honest, it seems like you have 6 relationships at play in this situation. I was like, bam, 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 which is a lot. Like, usually I don't know, I can sustain like 2 or 3 or 4 in some contexts. But that's a lot. And like 6, I'm like, ooh, that's too much complexity. Usually it depends, but, and it's someone's choice to make. But I was like, wow, you have 6 relationships here in this context that are meaningfully distinct and have different responsibilities and different values and constraints, and they're competing. So of course you have this incredible complexity and emotional pain and confusion about what to do here. And it's like, well, I was just like, my advice was like, you need to simplify this. Like, what are those relationships that you cannot and will not sacrifice? And what are the other ones that you don't want to sacrifice, but you are willing to or are not necessary? And it's like, well, remove 1, 2, 3 of those relationships, simplify it as much as possible, because that's why you're suffering right now. That's why you're confused. That's why you're overwhelmed. That's why you're in pain. That's why you don't know what to do. That's why you have inner conflict, competing things, is because you have 6 different responsibilities here. And that's too much. That's just too much. At some point, there is a number at which, in a given context, you cannot have that many relationships. Like dual relationships, like child's play in some context. It's like, I don't know, say you're parenting with someone. Like, I've never been a parent, but in a lot of situations, not in all situations, obviously, but in a lot of situations, how to put it, like, say you're married to someone and you have kids, then by definition, you are co-parenting, but you're also partners, right? Romantic life partners. And that's 2 relationships right there. And hopefully you view that person as a friend as well, which is related to, but I would say meaningfully slightly distinct from those other 2. And, maybe you collaborate with that person too. A lot of people collaborate in different ways on like work projects or specific things with their spouses or partners. And it's like, well, that's 3, 4 relationships right there. And I think a lot of people actually can handle this complexity. It's like a lot of pairs can handle this complexity. And at some point you hit a limit. It's like, well, if you do all that and start a whole new business together where it's like, okay, we're collaborating on this one thing, but we're also starting a business together. It's like, well, that might be too much. And this has to be navigated both internally about what your own personal boundaries are and what the other person's boundaries are, and what the dyad can hold. And importantly, this principle extends not just to individuals or relationships between individuals, between pairs, but also to groups and individual relationships with groups, or groups relationships with individuals. And just already naming like, hey, these are the roles that are present here that I see, the relationships that I see that are present, can be such a relief. To be like, okay, well, I've got this and this and this and this. And then someone often is like, well, you've got this also. You don't miss that. I'm like, whoa, crap. And then you get to have a conversation about that. Be like, I think we should pause this, That needs to be a move that's available regardless of what context you're in. And for me, I always, if it becomes overly complex, I'm happy. I mean, I'm not thrilled, but it's preferable to simplify and go back to just friendship if need be. It's like, well, we have these two relationships. Let's remove the one that's getting complex and let's go back to just being friends, because that's simple and that's straightforward. It's like, be honest with each other, be kind to each other, be respectful of each other. Don't steal or kill or harm or be cruel to each other. That's like kindergarten. Not that everyone's good at that, but it's simple. It's simple but not easy. It's simple but not common. It's simple but not well distributed, but straightforward, and something I am personally well practiced in, if not perfect at. I'm not claiming to be perfect at that, of course not. So yeah, I guess I would talk about it as relationship complexity, not just romantic relationships, obviously, but relationships of any kind. And knowing that there can be dual or multiple aspects of relationship that are at play, and being willing to simplify, remove relationships, pause relationship dimensions as needed, and really to return to friendship. And for me, to prioritize friendship. That's friendship first. That is such a key motto and rule and value for me. If it becomes too complex, to focus on the friendship. And, of course, it's a move also that you can just be like, to heck with this. This is just too painful and confusing. I'm not going to be connected to this person at all. But to me, that's just, in my heart, in my life, that's just such a tragedy and such a like a missed opportunity and really unforced error in a lot of cases. It's like, we could have just been friends and just been kept it simple, or like took a few months off or something. I don't know. This is very in the weeds at this point. But in any case, relationships can become complex when they have multiple dimensions. It's worth clarifying what the dimensions are and what's important to you, and simplifying it as need be, including to just one relationship or no relationship as needed. And this kind of frame has been so invaluable to me as a human relating to other humans in a lot of complexity. Like, I'm related to a lot of different people in a lot of different ways, sometimes multiple ways with people. And it's like, all right, let's clarify what we really want here, what's really good for us, what is right relationship for each of us right now in this context, and let's do that. Nothing more and nothing less. I hope this frame has been interesting to you. I'd be curious to hear your thoughts and experiences. Feel free to put it in the comments. I am sending you love and wishing you well with the vast complexity and possibility of human relationships.